CTO at Equium. Julian has over 2 decades in the software industry, leading teams and companies in building networked solutions. Prior to Equium, Julian was CTO of Urbanize, leading teams and the development of its cloud technology, which utilized Internet of Things to reimagine service delivery to buildings and communities. At Equium, Julian leads product development, managing business, market, and customer needs to deliver their all-in-one customer engagement platform, the Equium portal. Please join me in welcoming Julian to the lectern.
Thanks, everyone. It's fantastic to be here this afternoon. It's illustrative that we're already starting the conversation talking about customer and talking about the experience. It's very much what Equium has at its core, and I'll go through some of our history shortly. But absolutely, we see understanding the customer, and in this particular case, we mean the occupants of the building, people who are coming into the spaces that we've created, absolutely fundamental in terms of what the future is going to bring in terms of enhancing assets. Let's see if it goes that way. Or that way. Which is the click. No? Now I've done it. So you shouldn't have got the technology guy up to work with the technology. Bound to cause trouble. Bound to cause trouble. There we go. All right, here we go. So today, I want to break it into 3 sections for today. I want to talk about the state of the market briefly, a little bit of context. I'm going to a little bit of time talking about the Equium journey and how we've got to this point. And then I want to talk about some case studies. And then briefly, I'll talk about where we see these spaces going in the future and how do we enhance them. So the state of the market today is very much one that's in flux, and we're in a change period. And I've been doing this for over 10 years now in the real estate sector. Started, I remember hitting Dubai in about 2008, which is a great time to be in Dubai, for those of you who've spent any time in Dubai, just as the Ferraris were gathering dust at the airport. And it completely changed already, and I'd just been there for 12 hours. And being through 10 years, now is even more acceleration. There's so much more technology, there is so much more focus and talk about the consumer. So we're absolutely in a point of change, in an inflection point. I feel that right now, which is why I'm very excited about recently joining Equium, because I think this inflection point is one that's going to allow us to do some amazing things in the very short term, the next few years. So one of the changes that's happening right now is that the customer themselves are very, very different. Right? If you're talking as a building owner, the people you speak to as the tenants were these office managers of some sort that were, and I love waistcoats. I could enjoy a situation like that. But the landscape has changed radically, and the people we have in our buildings today aren't just the 1 or 2 people we speak to from a building on a monthly or yearly basis. For instance, Equium started with a 72-person list Excel spreadsheet of tenants, and now we're talking about a complete collage of people with different backgrounds and different expectations and different ways of working. Project-based work, not employment-based work. And it's radically changing the people that is brought into our space, and by that nature, how we have to address and engage with those people. Very, very different. The other change, of course, is technology. As the technology guy, I love this stuff. There's so many cool things now. We've got Bluetooth, we've got NFC, we've got Internet of Things. This is all incredibly exciting stuff. And machine learning in the last 6 months is leaps and bounds. It's absolutely fantastic. And when we pick all these technologies, we look at the opportunities we've got for rolling out new solutions, and we go, what do we do? And it is an incredible minefield. And the reason for that is because all of these technologies are solutions. They're not necessarily an end game in themselves. They're part of a solution. They're a solution to a problem that we haven't actually spoken about. These technologies come from different spaces. We try to bring them in the real estate sector. We try to build them in the property space. I've been working with BMS systems in Singapore at Changi Airport for over 15 years. A lot of this stuff isn't new. These solutions exist, but when we try to use them again today in 2017, we often stumble, we fall over, we try things, it doesn't work, we try it again, it doesn't work. And the reason for that is we don't understand what it is we're trying to do. We don't understand the problem that we're trying to solve when we bring this technology to bear. Right? So in order to make sense of this confusing landscape of technology, we need some context. I've been saying for many years now that in isolation, everything is ambiguous, and in context, everything is common sense. Right? So if we were going to bring this technology and bring all these little pieces of the solution into the real estate sector, into prop tech, a phrase that didn't even exist a few years ago, then what is that context that we're talking about? So one of the elements of the context, one of the framings of our problem space we're looking at now is sustainability is growing up. We're moving past the neighbours and have we got good light bulbs in the system. We're actually talking more holistically about the wellness of the people in our building. Right? And why are we doing that? Well, we've been doing a lot of cool technology things very, very recently. The iPhone is still relatively new. In the landscape of computing and everything else, the iPhone is still relatively new. But it's been with us for a decade now. Already, the iPhone's been with us for a decade. And yet when we look at productivity enhancements, that this amazing new technological device, who hasn't got an iPhone here? Right? So we've all got one. Where's our productivity? It hasn't budged. In the 10 years since the iPhone was introduced, this amazing piece of technology, the productivity hasn't budged. So what do we have to do to increase the productivity of this building? And it's not just about getting the most out of the workers. We've got increased levels of stress, we've got increased levels of anxieties, we've got kids who are more depressed than they've ever been, and they're using this technology every day. So clearly it's not necessarily going to help our wellness by itself. So if we're going to have a great environment and we're going to have a place that we like to work and get out of the bed to go to each day, we're going to have to do more than just throw technology at the problem. This is coming from the technology guy. Yeah? This is very, very important, and it's fundamental to where we're going to be going in the next 5 or 10 years. I've mentioned this, I'll say it again. People want more flexible ways of working. Right? It's not just about one big office space where we all come, use a desk. Yes, we're doing hot desking, banks all through Australia, big push towards hot desking from an efficiency perspective. But there's another trend as well towards flexible shared spaces. WeWork is a crazy story. Right? You're talking about a company that doesn't own any land at all with a valuation almost the same as a company that owns 80 buildings globally. How can that possibly be the case? It's an illustrative story because the way that WeWork have achieved this is very much focusing on the customer, focusing on building community. So it's an engaging place to come and do the things that I have to do to earn money, but I need to do other things apart from earn money. I need to have engagement with my friends, with my peers. I need to have amenities available. And yes, maybe a bit of technology can help in that sort of context. But it's very much a community story, not anymore an asset story. And now WeWork are telling our property owners how to build the assets. It's an interesting turnaround. And it's possibly and very likely not the last. So the property management is changing. It needs to be more, and it is becoming absolutely more customer and community centric. It's going to be becoming more automated, yes, and it's going to be data driven. And if we do it right, we can apply what I call just enough technology. We don't need to do everything, but if we look at the landscape of great technical solutions, we can apply just enough technology in order to enhance our environment and enhance those assets. So that's a bit of the landscape. A little bit about Equium itself. Equium was founded in 2011 by Lorenz Grollo, who was running the Rialto Centre down on Collins Street. And he had a vision towards making a portal available and engaging the customers. And for anyone, Lorenz is a lovely guy, very happy-go-lucky. He's always got a smile on his face. More risk-adverse than a lot of people in the industry, and good luck to him. But none of that stuff was anywhere near as valuable to the creation of Equium and the journey that we've been on than simply having an enormous potential in terms of the tower, the Rialto Tower, that he was willing to prepare and set up as an experimental lab to try a whole lot of customer-facing things. Because when we talk about customers, and we talk about engaging customers and building a community, there is no dictatorship. There is no dictatorship on how you build a community. You build a community through engagement and through experimentation. And the whole Equium journey started in 2011 by having an experimental lab in Rialto that enabled us to begin that experimental journey, get the learnings, and enhance and improve going forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about what went on at Rialto over the period. But we started with a portal to communicate with the tenants, engage them holistically, and bring it all together in one place so we could start collecting what their preferences were and helping engage them and come up in a single platform that did all that. Fast forward a few years, one of the things we found through experimentation, we started with very hotel-style concierge, and we found that wasn't enough to get the engagement going. We needed to rethink our concierge strategy, and so we started looking for people that were experienced in doing event management. And now we have this whole amazing team, 150 people up and down the coast, that do a combination of concierge and greeting, but also got experience doing event management, again, creating that engagement to build and sustain that community. And then over the years, we've built out a lot more functionality and in lots of different areas, tried lots of different experiments. I'll talk to those in a moment. And we've got lots more to do. I'm very excited about the next 5 years because this is just the beginning. We've got a huge amount more to do. So in terms of outcomes, overall Equium, and this isn't a boasting slide, this is just because there's a lot of experiments that we've been doing, and it's all content driven and it's all driven by real data. So we're talking about 100 buildings now, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of users. We're talking a massive 40% average active user rate. Okay, for most e-commerce systems, that's like 10 times what a lot of people are doing. But over 40% of our customers come to the site every month. Huge numbers, huge engagement. Again, lots of context, we've got lots of experience. Everyone's experimenting with this stuff. Some of these experiments, some of these are massive rollout plans. It's a fantastic story. We've tried also experiments in commercial towers where we started at Rialto. We've done experiments and we've got product now that works in residential shopping centres, and I'll speak to one of our shopping centre examples shortly. We're looking at corporate parks, and we've done some great stuff in co-working as well. So enhancing assets. What does that actually look like? Rialto and Equium, the whole point of Equium was part of a regeneration program for Rialto, and was always about enhancing the built environment that existed. And if you think about, there are great new buildings coming out of the ground for sure, but when I was doing my previous job and looking at IoT rollouts, one of the things that was our core principle was, if you look fast forward 30 years into what buildings might use our technology, might be able to be rolled out and talk about the customers in them, at least 80%, 90% of the buildings in 30 years already exist today. So if you don't have an engagement strategy that looks at working with the existing buildings, then you're totally limiting your market and your potential opportunity. So everything we've done at Equium has always been about enhancing those existing assets, not just expecting the next great project to be the one that's going to be the one that gets all the bells and whistles. So how do we do that, and which ones have we targeted? Large range of different types of buildings, everything from obviously A-grade office space. I'll speak about Eastland in a moment, retail, Darling Park, etc., etc. A few of these. All of these buildings, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but all of these buildings, different approaches to enhancing them, and I'll talk to that a little bit in a moment. Everyone's very different. So Rialto itself started, as I said, 2011, 25-year-old building, relatively old, relatively good condition for the time. From a maintenance perspective, it was relatively neat. Was about to start a regeneration. We were looking for building a sense of community and keeping engagement through what was going to be a somewhat yucky regeneration phase. It's never fun being in a construction site every day at work. So a little bit of foresight. How do we maintain the sense of community through some of that, and also think about the future from a vision perspective? So there was three sort of pillars to the approach that was delivered. The portal itself, the technology stack that people can access, log into, and purchase and engage via news and events. There was a customer service division that was built from the ground up for Rialto. And a very, very key is a tailored engagement strategy. Every engagement strategy we come up with is different for every building, and Rialto was no different. And you'll see that repeated. So we provided convenience. People could get online, they could look at news and events, they could see what was going on. We provide for building management, they're able to communicate, they can get rid of paper. They can also start to get data on tenant behaviour, what people are interested in, start looking at when you're going to increase rents or when you're going to change rents, giving some insights into those owners. And for the tenants themselves, the retailers in the building were able to allow a new channel for them to engage with their customers directly and provide a B2C environment, not just a B2B environment, a B2C environment as well. So over the time, we started with a simple concierge team that was hotel styled, limited to greetings, and we transitioned this to a hybrid, to a fully engaged community manager, a mixture of hotel and hospitality, and we've got an amazing customer service that's delivered, and accolades coming from it. And I can speak to and go through this bullet point list, but I prefer to show you a little bit of a video about what this actually feels like, so you get a bit of a sense. I hope that's deliberate.
There's not a normal day at the concierge desk. There's always something different and exciting happening. I'm in around 7 o'clock getting the keys, seeing security, making sure everything's good to go for the day. But then after that, everything and anything can happen.
So I'm usually buzzing around the 54 levels in the Rialto Towers. Sometimes they see me walking down the aisles of the office and they stand up and wave and do a little dance because they're excited. It's a little, escape from what they do every day.
We have awesome activations in the lobby. We're always offering something to tenants. Anything that's come and go up, we'll incorporate it into the schedule.
It doesn't matter how small or how big the request will be, you always have to show that you care. And always go that little extra mile for the service that you're offering.
We started Equium because we really felt that the digital revolution was changing everything. It was important for us to re-engage with our tenants and our people in the building and people on site, and working in tandem with that digital platform.
The portal helps me in my role to connect with our tenants. I get to see what people do, and it helps you lead conversations when they walk past the desk. It helps me understand what the tenants want and what they need.
The portal is my #1 communication device between me and tenants. If something happens, I get a call from someone, this exit's going to be closed, I create a news post, and a newsletter can be sent out by email to 3,000 tenants.
The portal helps me to be aware of what's going on in the building. It's a way to kind of get to know the tenants in a more engaging way.
We've had Equium here since they did the world first launch of the portal. They had a very good understanding of the service delivery model that we were aspiring to provide the tenants. They're very focused on leading the building industry rather than following.
The team at Equium are young and vibrant, and it's an exciting space to be.
They're always there to support us with the answers for our questions and just to guide us in the right way.
Whenever I get feedback from a tenant, like why don't we have this feature on the portal, I can approach these guys. They'll often change it, they'll add to the portal, and I can return to the tenant and say, hey look, our development team created this for you.
So it's just a great way to be kind of one step ahead, whilst also delivering amazing customer service to all the tenants.
Not bad, huh? It is an amazing place to be. But the real reward for Equium is the engagement that we get from the people walking in the building. They absolutely love it. We've got 150, 200 people coming to these events on a regular basis. The other great thing when I'm putting together a deck like this, or people helping me put it together, we don't have stock art in any of our photos. Right? These are all photos from real events that we run at Rialto and for the other sites. Some of the colour, some of the vibrancy, the Equium platform, not just the technology, but those people driving a massive engagement piece based on a huge amount of content that we help the retailers, we help the people in Rialto develop as well. And it's part of a holistic view that's always focused, always bringing it back to the customer, these people walking in and out of the building from the moment they walk through the threshold till they leave at the end of the day. So some basic numbers, as I said, up to 250 people attending these events on a regular basis. We've got thousands of users in the database, and it's a really great story over the last few years. So, another example of, again, taking an existing asset and going through a regeneration and enhancing it. We had a great opportunity as part of the Eastland major renovation, where, again, similar sort of words you see when we spoke to the customer, and this is the way we kick this off. We always start with a very specific engagement piece. What are the goals that we're trying to do? This isn't just a technology solution. What are the goals we're trying to achieve in terms of the way you want to interact with the people of this space? So we talk about connection, we talk about building community, and bringing the tenant, the people walking through the building into the retail space, so they can have a better experience. So once again here, the strategy for us, a portal from a technology perspective, a great guest services team, and again, a tailored engagement plan that involves content and specific activities that bring all these things together. All right. Again, this is custom designed for the individual people at Eastland. This is something that's part of a holistic view about the way you engage. You can't just throw something over the fence and hope it's going to work. When we talk about customers and we talk about enhancement, it needs to be tailored. You need to be listening to the people who are going to be experiencing this transformation and really understanding how you can make a contribution to make their lives better. And so this, again, is customised for Eastland. We came up with an engagement strategy, content growth for stores, the retailer relationship. And we went through and used this as a framework for coming up with a different way of thinking about how do we use technology and how do we get Eastland into a different space, level it up in terms of a destination, a new town centre in this area. So once again, huge uptake at Eastland, thousands of comments, thousands of orders going through, registrations, users, etc. And again, a very high monthly average user rate because the engagement strategy brings us together. This is not just having a website that you pull out of your pocket. You've always got people and news and content bringing users back to the portal to make sure that engagement is real. All right. How did we do that? We had an information, an informed pillar, and we had an empowerment pillar. How are we going to help businesses grow? The retailers were fully behind it. They loved the idea that we could help them grow their business. Of course they would. Of course they would love that. And as an asset owner, right, that's how you increase people wanting to be in your space, because you're providing a value add, not just in terms of whether the air conditioning is turned on, but you're doing stuff proactive every month, every week, to drive customers through their retail stores. Of course they're going to love it. Of course they are. Again, and then that sort of bubbles through a big activation play where we take those key pillars and we start to execute on them, focusing on different elements for different parts of the journey. Right? Kids, services, community, well-being as well. Right. Once again, these are real photos, just beautiful colour, and a whole lot of other initiatives. So, I'm going to get close to wrapping this up. Just walking through some of these, again, reinforcing we've got a very strong content and engagement piece. And once again, these events, very targeted, very specific, because it's customer-based and not just thinking about us giving them the asset with the air conditioning. So what's the future of this? If we think about enhancing assets and think about rolling out connected buildings, I had the pleasure of working with Cisco for a few years, and if you speak to someone like Cisco or IBM, this is their idea of a connected building. And the reason they love it is because it's got lots of optic fibre, and it's got lots of network gear, and there's Wi-Fi, and there's wireless, and there's all sorts of good stuff in there. And it's just not that valuable. It's great if you're selling kit, right? But if you're actually trying to solve problems, if you're trying to enhance the user experience, this stuff might be part of it, but it's by no means the end game. And what is the end game is to focus on the connections between the occupants and the people in the space, bringing people together, forging those relationships, forging those interactions, and building a strong sense of community where we can come on a regular basis and not be irritated by the space, but actually begin to really enjoy being there, and if we get it right, maybe we begin to thrive. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much for listening.